This is Personal Injury Court.
This is the matter of Richardson versus Black. Mr. Richardson, it's my understanding that you suffered a number of injuries on a group adventure that Mr. Black arranged, and you're asking this court to award you $45,000 for medical expenses in the past, $15,000 for future medical expenses, and $29,000 for lost wages, for a total of $89,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Black, you believe that had he not been so adventurous, he wouldn't have any injuries, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
He's responsible for his own injuries as you see it.
100%, yes, sir.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. How long have you known Mr. Black?
I've known Mr. Black for probably about a year now. See, I'm a very adventurous, outdoorsy person. I've always been that way. And so I went on social media and I found this group called the Mountain Adventure Squad.
Okay.
And I read the description. They had similar goals to me. They wanted to hike all the peaks in the state, maybe a through hike in the future. Like, these are my goals too. This is a perfect group. So I messaged the leader, Dean Black here, and we talked for a while, and he seemed like a good dude. He is a good dude. And we just got together.
That's why you're suing me.
How did you end up starting this group?
So I've been hiking, the first time I went was with my daddy when I was like 5 years old. So I've been on the mountain, I've been in caves, I've been in rivers, I've been everywhere since I was about 5 years old. And I kind of, here recently, I really wanted to share my passion more with people. So
you live outdoors?
Yes, sir. So I decided to start me like a little group and find some people who kind of enjoy the same thing. And that's my mass group, really enjoy it.
So, Mr. Richardson, what kind of adventures were you looking for? You mentioned hiking.
Hiking, climbing, all sorts of adventures, camping, anything that we could do to get us outside and to get us the thrill of an adventure, really.
So, Mr. Black, this was your adventure. You put this together, right?
That is correct, sir, yes.
Well, what were you all supposed to be doing out there?
I mean, really just having fun, observing nature, enjoying a hike. I don't know about all this danger talk, but yeah, we were out there just having fun, enjoying a hike.
Well, hiking around the mountains and doing things out in nature, there are dangers, right?
There are dangers, yes, sir, but controlled dangers is the way I would put it.
And
so, controlled dangers.
So, Mr. Richardson, what's the thrill for you?
The thrill? Your Honor, I don't know if you've ever been on top of a mountain. Here.
I'm acrophobic, so never.
No roller coasters, anything? Well, when you're that close to something that is as big as a mountain, it's just, you feel so small. It's almost like a pleasurable existentialism. It's just, you're so small and the world's so big, just gives you a visceral rush.
Really connects you with nature.
Connects you with nature.
That's what fishing does for me. I fish out of a ditch if I can. But I understand that connection with nature, but not on mountaintops. So how did your thrill for adventure turn into a nightmare?
Your Honor, we found a new peak that none of us have ever been on. And so we woke up 5 a.m. in the morning, drove 2 hours to this new mountain. We got there, hiked 3 miles up to the top, and when we got to the top, it was gorgeous. You couldn't picture a better hiking day.
That's amazing.
It is unbelievable. You can really see some spectacular stuff.
Now, what are we looking at here? How are we getting this view?
That's pretty much where we were hiking. That's my nifty little drone here. And
okay, so you took this view from your drone?
Yes, sir.
Do you take your drone on these hikes often?
So recently just acquired this drone.
So when your drone is taking these views, where are you?
I'm down there. So I'm down here with everybody else.
So Mr. Richardson, what went wrong here?
So, Your Honor, if you could see on the screen, there's a tiny little dot in the middle up towards the top. That's where we are standing. And I was standing, we got to the top of the mountain. There's this boulder, probably 10, 15 feet high. And when you're on top of a mountain, you want to get to the very top of the mountain. And so,
because you need an extra 10 feet.
I made sure that this boulder was safe enough to climb. I know what I'm doing. I've rock climbed for years.
Did anybody else climb up there with you?
No, Your Honor.
No.
So you were kind of the guy seeking the summit peak.
Yes, yes.
When you're on the top of a mountain, you want to get as high as you can get.
So you climb up on this rock.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
And then I was just taking in the breathtaking views, and as Dean said, he always takes pictures, and he had his newfangled drone this time. And so he's flying it around, and I'm standing, arms wide open. I do the regular pose, but I clearly cannot. And so I was standing arms wide open, just taking in the world and trying to get a cool picture. Why wouldn't I? We're on top of a mountain.
Well, this is a special moment.
It is a special moment. That's what I'm trying to say. And then
You could have enjoyed it from the ground where the rest of us
oh,
were.
why?
Do you get
standing
the
there
same
watching.
view?
You had no
Do you
need-
get the same view down there on the ground with the rest of the
No,
people?
the feeling you get on top of the boulder is way more than you can experience if you're just on the ground. You want to get as high as you
So
can.
you're
get on 'em.
standing on top of the boulder like
that.
this,
Yes,
right?
Your Honor.
You're taking in all that nature has to give you, and then what happens?
Exactly. Then Dean starts flying his drone closer
wasn't
to
flying
us. I assume to get a better angle of the picture. Like he's taken pictures before. He knows what he's doing. So I'm
You see
standing
the
there.
drone flying around.
I see the drone flying
Okay.
around, yes. And so I'm standing there, arms wide open, waiting for the picture. And then the drone keeps getting closer and closer. And I'm just thinking, all right, Dean, it's getting a little close. And then it just beelines right towards me, hits me right in the gut. I fell off a boulder on top of a mountain.
So you broke your arm, you jammed your thumb, you messed up your ankle. What else?
And my rotator cuff is torn.
Mr. Black, is that what happened?
That's kind of what happened, but I just want to go ahead and say I was not at all responsible for that incident in that way because I was
Not
so the
responsible. Your drone knocked me over
drone
off
was
the
in-
boulder.
Matthew, the drone was in home mode. It was in
Mr.
home mode.
Black,
I didn't have the controller in my.
You're controlling this drone, and the drone's flying around. It's in home mode.
Yes, sir.
Does home mode mean that it comes back to you?
Yeah. Well, so it's returning to you, controlled and stationary, like towards your direction, but it's not like out of control, going crazy.
It was in home
it's
mode,
not
supposed to be
like
going
I'm not
back to
holding the
you. Why did it
controller
go
down.
and hit
So,
me?
Mr. Richardson, you're standing on top of the boulder, and this drone slams into you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then what happens?
When the drone hit me, I don't know if you're familiar with drones, Your Honor, but
I'm not.
it's basically a box with a camera with spinning knives on it.
There's a
And it flew straight towards me,
dramatic
hit me right in the
exaggeration.
gut. Just
It is
It was
not-
a horrible pain, and the force of the drone pushed
Blade.
me backwards off the boulder on top of the mountain.
Now, this drone is recording, right?
Yes, sir.
You've submitted a video. I want to see that video.
Yeah,
I
Let's
was
take a
not
look at it.
holding the controller when this happened, though.
Let's take a look at the drone. Didn't you see this thing coming at you?
I saw it coming towards me, but he was flying it before.
Your Honor, he was trying to hug it. It looked like he was trying to give it a hug.
Well, wait a minute.
I was trying to get a
Mr.
full
Black,
picture.
you saw it coming at him. You've got the control.
Exactly. Why didn't
I
he
was
steer
not
around
holding
me?
the controller.
Okay, where are the controls
So the
when this
controller
thing
was
is
sitting
flying?
down. I was just looking around. I had it home
Why
mode
was
to have
the
it.
controller not in your hands? You're flying.
It was on
shooting
home mode. It's
dangerous
on
piece of
autopilot.
Mr.
equipment.
Richardson, let me conduct this, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
I got to find out what the bottom of this is.
Rude
okay?
and can't hide.
Yes, Your Honor.
So the controls are on the ground and you're just watching this thing fly around?
Well, so I practiced this. Okay, I've worked on it. I practiced all these modes. I've seen a lot of this stuff.
And
I'm sorry, I
so
was
when
getting
it
a little
came
flustered.
back this way, this wasn't what you anticipated.
No. So
Now-
it came down a little more uncontrolled than I thought it was, but I did see it coming. And everyone else saw it coming. And everyone else kind of was like, move. Hey, it's coming. Matthew, it's coming. And Matthew just, did his thing, his Titanic deal, for no apparent reason. And
As I watched the video, and frankly, I want to look at it again, but I'm trying to figure out, what are you thinking when this thing is coming at you? Let's
Nothing.
look at it. Now, as I watched that video and that drone's coming at you, I wanted to scream, get out of the way, get out of the way.
we did.
Right?
We did.
I love Leonardo DiCaprio's pose in Titanic. It's a beautiful thing. But there were no drones coming at him. And now you end up with a Titanic kind of injury.
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened to your arm?
It snapped. I could hear the snap when I fell off the
You should have
boulder.
moved.
And in addition to that, my left ankle, I can still barely move it. I'm in a brace still. My right thumb is all but broken.
So what's been the worst of your injuries?
The worst of my injury has for sure been my rotator cuff because it has kept me out of work for so long. I live paycheck to paycheck like most people, and not having this $29,000 from the last 5 months has put me in a very bad financial situation.
5 months out would break most families. Mr. Black, this is your tour, your adventure, your drone. Why not your fault?
I've repeatedly stated he should have moved and that I didn't have control of the drone.
So he should have protected you from a bad decision to put the controls down?
Himself. He should have protected himself.
Why weren't you driving the drone?
I had the controller was sitting on the ground, Matthew.
Smaller, it's equally as dangerous.
I don't understand. This is insane.
Do you have a drone license?
Of course I have a drone license, yes, sir.
Are you able to operate that drone and show me how it works?
Extremely well, and I can show you. That's why I brought this today.
Okay, I want you to do that.
Yeah, okay. Let's go then.
Sheriff Matt, will you get the drone? Sure. So, Mr. Black, tell me how this drone works. Show this for me.
It's pretty simple. I'm going to activate it like this, and then I can lift it up. Get that good levitation.
It's like a giant wasp or something.
It's cool, ain't it? So imagine this thing a couple thousand feet up in the air taking pictures of you while you're on a beautiful hike.
You can fly it now, can't you?
I can fly it, Matt, because I'm holding the controller. You're going to help me win this case, sure enough. Keep talking.
When you have the controls, you control where it goes and how it turns?
Yes, sir.
Will it do this in home mode?
That's the point of home mode. It's like an autopilot thing, more or less. When I practiced on a soccer field, for instance, I hit home mode, it returned to me and landed like a butterfly next to me.
So had you been controlling it on that day the way you did today, would he ever have been struck by your drone? If you had the controls in your hand and did what you did today?
I would say that was a complete malfunction. You can't predict a malfunction.
That's true.
So how would I predict that maybe I would have been controlling it and it would have malfunctioned the same way and nailed my boy?
Well, you don't hold him responsible, right?
He could have moved. That's the main thing that no one's really getting at. Like, he could have moved.
What would have happened if I would have moved?
That does make sense now.
I would have moved. Everybody else would have moved.
I don't know how drones work. If I've moved left, then get hit with the drone, then Dean's gonna be like, oh, why'd you move? I was flying the drone.
Mr. Richardson, do you take any responsibility for your injuries?
I do not take responsibility for his drone hitting me. All the risks that I take when I go adventuring are calculated risks.
So, Mr. Black, you brought a witness with you, Miss Kayla Myers.
Yes, sir, I did.
Miss Myers, would you stand and come to the podium, please? You've been part of this adventure group?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Is it true? I mean, do you guys seek out danger as part of your adventures?
Well, we don't seek out danger. Him, on the other hand, he is constantly trying to one-up us. We call him the daredevil.
Just give me a couple examples you remember.
He always has to be the one who's jumping off and doing a flip. Like, we were going on the cliff, and we ended up jumping off of it into the water. He had to do, like, a bunch of flips, like...
This guy's not gonna jump.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he
is. It's what you get out of it.
Woo! I just don't have those needs,
The
okay?
danger makes the...
So did you do these kind of dangerous things?
Yes, Your Honor, I did do those kind of dangerous things. I know how to safely do those things.
He pushes everything.
We're not the mountain kind of adventure squad. We are the mountain adventure squad. There's no limit on the adventure we do.
It is amazing to me. You make it through diving off of cliffs and a drone takes you out?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Myers, what do you remember from this day?
Matt being extra that he has to be on king top of the world. He gets up on the boulder. We clearly see this thing coming at him. We're like, hey, move, move. Dean said, he's like, I don't have control, move. Like,
Move.
I mean, it's pretty easy to dodge. It's a pretty big piece of material.
Miss Myers, you may be seated. You don't believe this was your fault?
No. It obviously was not my fault because I didn't have this in my hand. I set it on home mode. He knew I had it on home mode, and I told him to move. So if he moves, I'm not here right now.
And Mr. Richardson, you don't believe this was your fault. You believe it was his fault.
No, Your Honor. He should have been piloting the drone. He shouldn't have just let this autopilot pilot the drone back to us when we're on top of a mountain.
Gentlemen, I've heard enough, and I think I'm ready to render my decision. Gentlemen, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Mr. Richardson, have to prove three things. You've got to prove that Mr. Black was wrong. You got to prove that first, and that his wrong caused your injuries. You are clearly injured. Today, you've put up evidence that he was the one controlling the drone. And Mr. Black, the law charges you with responsibility when you put something like this in the air. The law says it's your drone. The law says it's your controls. The law says it's your responsibility to control this item so that people don't get hurt. You cannot shirk that responsibility simply by putting the controls on the ground. So the law holds you responsible for this. Mr. Richardson, I know you were knocked off this rock. You sustained terrible injuries. You've got medical bills. You've lost wages. I understand why you filed this lawsuit. But the law looks at you too and looks at your behavior. You had an opportunity to avoid this whole thing if you had not been on that rock. And the last opportunity, the law has a concept called last clear chance. And with last clear chance, you have an opportunity to save yourself even when someone does something wrong. Yep. The law evaluates and compares responsibility. I find you both responsible for this. But when you both are responsible 50-50, the law's unforgiving and you lose. I find for Mr. Black, that is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. This is the matter of Roberts versus Clark. It's my understanding, Ms. Roberts, that you are suing Ms. Clark for injuries your daughter sustained in her laundromat. You are asking this court to award you $8,000 for past medical expenses for your daughter, $2,000 for future medical expenses, and $150,000 for emotional distress, for a total of $160,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Clark, you own this laundromat?
Yes, Your Honor.
And your position here, based on what you filed with this court, is she should have watched her kids. This is her fault.
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Thank you, ma'am. Now let's get into the legal sauce. Ms. Roberts, tell me how you got to be at this laundromat this day.
Well, I'm a single mom. I live in this very small apartment. They don't have a laundromat, so that's why I come here.
How many children do you
I
have?
have 2.
These are your babies here?
Yes.
I should have had
Gina's
girls.
the one on the right side, and Rochelle's the one on the left side. We bake together. We sleep next to each other.
I think the most fun I've ever had in my life is being a parent. So
Yes.
I can definitely get with you on that.
I love it. They're my girls. They're my everything. I will do anything for them.
So
I've
why
worked
this
so hard.
laundromat? Had you been there before?
Yes, I always go there. We don't have a laundromat at our apartment, so
Okay.
they came with me that Saturday morning.
So, Ms. Clark, how long have you had this laundromat?
I'm a 3rd-generation owner. My grandfather started this business over 60 years ago.
Now, in the laundromats that I've been in as a kid, they were packed on Saturdays.
Yes.
People waiting to use the machines. Is that how yours has been?
We stay relatively full on the weekends mostly, yes.
So, Ms. Roberts, tell me what happened on the day in question.
Okay, so I was folding my laundry. My kids were coloring, and
Are they near you or are they somewhere else?
yes, they're like 15 feet away.
Okay.
So I was
More like
folding my
25,
clothes.
Judge.
I was folding my clothes, and they were coloring, and all suddenly Gina gets up, and she starts climbing into one of the washing machines, and it happened within 5 seconds. So when at the time I got up, my other daughter, she pushed the door, and then it locks. I mean, within
You
5
must have been
seconds.
frightened.
I mean, it was horrible because it locked.
Yes, ma'am.
And I tried to pull it, and it locked completely. So the water started coming down.
Was your little girl looking at you?
Yes, she started crying, and my other daughter started crying, so I started
I know this was bad.
freaking out because
I can imagine all she wanted was her mommy at that point.
Yes, it's
What are
because
you
of
doing at this point?
I'm trying to pull her. I'm trying to push buttons, and nothing. I started screaming for help. Help! Somebody help my baby because she's gonna die.
So-
She never came out, and I thought she was gonna die because I saw the water going over her head, and then it started rocking, and then.
Now, Ms. Clark, you can see that this had to be frightening for any parent,
It
any
would have
mom.
been frightening for me, Your Honor. I'm a mother and a grandmother both.
Now, were you there this day?
Yes, I was.
How did you know that something had gone wrong?
When I heard a scream, and I had seen the kids running around throughout, and I was thinking to myself, why is she corralling these kids? Because they're running around. Everybody else's kids is having to.
Yeah, but you don't understand that my daughter
over in the
could've been
kids area,
killed.
and
She could've died that day.
before I knew it, like she said, it happened suddenly. But as she just told you, she saw it when it was taking.
But I would imagine,
you
though,
never came
I
out.
would imagine in any laundromat where moms come with their babies, moms and dads, that kids, 3- and 4-year-olds,
Yes,
they
and
know
that-
nothing but energy, right?
Yeah, but that's all the more reason why you should keep an eye on your kids.
Now,
I'm
you
sure they
agree
have
with
much
that.
Energy and
You agree with that, don't you, Ms.
in
Roberts?
the home.
This happened within 5
Ms.
seconds.
Roberts? You agree with that, though. You should watch your babies, right?
I was watching my baby.
I know you're washing clothes. I understand that. I certainly
yes, but
do.
this happened within 5 seconds. By the time I got there, it was locked.
So once the door closed, you said water was coming down?
Water was coming down. Within 2 minutes, it started rocking. And I couldn't even pull it because it locked down.
So she's in the washing machine. This is happening, and then there's water coming down on her head.
So
this is a nightmare.
It is a nightmare, Your Honor,
horrible.
but as she just said, Your Honor, she saw her baby climbing on the washing machine. She could have said something at that point. Your Honor, it is not our fault.
Scared.
We have a kids area where we ask them and we make an announcement for you to keep an eye on your kids, and please, if at all possible, make sure you stay in that area.
How far is this kids area? Tell me about this kids area. You got a TV and toys.
Well, we have TV, we have the soda machines, we have different little toys, little building blocks and things, the chairs, the size for the kids.
So is it fair to say that your laundromat is fit for moms and kids?
Yes, it is.
Working moms and kids.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. This
So,
area
Ms. Roberts,
is so small. If you see a picture of it, it's so small.
Well, it's about 25 feet, 20 feet between the kids area and the whole laundromat area. And
and this is the kids area?
That's the kids area.
That doesn't look like it's going to have a whole lot of kids there, right?
The washing machine, it's about 15
well, you
feet.
could have a few, you could have...
If this is going to work the way you want it to work, tell me how this happens. Do parents just put their kids over there and go back to washing clothes?
They do.
And leave their kids over here?
Periodically, they come and check on their children, but they can see them. As she said, she saw her child when she first started to climb on the wash machine, and her other child was with her. At that point in time, knowing how rowdy her kids have been, I would have said, even if I was folding clothes, I'd stop folding my clothes.
So, Ms. Roberts, I see the pain on your face. Tell me what happened to your little girl. Was she hurt?
Yes, she was
How
hurt.
was she hurt? Tell me about her injuries.
When she got locked in there,
Yes, ma'am.
the water started filling.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then when it started rocking, this other guy came and he helped me. He grabbed a fire extinguisher, and then he said, I'm gonna have to break it.
And did he break the glass?
Yes.
And it got your baby out?
Yes. I mean, thanks to him, not for her.
Now, I see
Because she could die.
I see that your daughter had $8,000 in past medical expenses. Tell me about those injuries.
Well, her arm is broken.
Okay,
And she
ma'am.
had bruises all around her shoulders because of the rocking of the machine. And then she had a cut right over her eyes.
Okay.
And I also have some pictures just to show you.
Sheriff Matt, if you retrieve those pictures, and thank you, ma'am, for providing those.
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is your little girl's arm here,
Yes.
and this is her left arm.
Yes, her left arm.
Was she frightened about all these bandages and things on her?
Yes, it's horrible. She was crying. She was so scared what happened. She won't even take a bath anymore. She won't even go to the swimming pool.
Now, see this abrasion? Where is that on
It's
her
right
body?
over here on the right side.
So she banged her shoulder up,
Yes,
too?
Your Honor.
Okay. I see this incision here. Where is that on her body?
It's right over here.
Okay, so she had a cut on the inside of her right arm, too?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I see there's a cut by her eye. Is that how her eye looked?
Yes.
So she had to get stitches in that eye?
She did.
At 3 years old?
Yes. She got 10
You can imagine, Miss
stitches.
Clark, this is a bad deal for this little girl, right?
She hasn't been the same.
Your Honor, I do agree that the child's injury is
You
bad
remember
to
when
see.
your
It's hard
kids were
to
little
see.
kids?
Yes, of course I do, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course I do. But my thing is, Your Honor, that is not my fault how this child got injured. If her mother, had been more responsible as a parent to look out for her child, this wouldn't have happened.
How come you didn't unplug it?
The wash machines that we have are on a line. You can't unplug one.
Okay, and how do you operate them? People aren't plugging and
they're
unplugging
operated
them.
by a corn slot, and I had a sign on the machine that says broken in English and in Spanish.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
how would a 3-year-old be
Yeah.
able to read that?
It's not for the children to read.
Okay.
They have an area for them. When the parents see, if it was my child, and I saw that there was a faulty something on there, my first thing would be, and y'all stay away from that one.
Miss Roberts described her little girl getting into this washing machine, and it starts rocking.
Actually, you didn't have to put any money in it. That was the problem. You're supposed
You
to
were
pay to wash,
unaware?
but it just washed on its own. It wasn't working properly, and that's the reason why we had to get it repaired, because it was washing without any money.
Now, Miss Roberts, you can see that sign that was on the front of this washing machine, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you see it that day?
I didn't see it that day. But
Okay.
if I would have seen it, I mean, I would have at least, I would have washed my clothes there. if I could have used it without coins. You know what I'm saying?
Now let me circle this apparatus on the top.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about this. Is that where they put the coin?
Yes, sir, it is.
Now that was one of the things that was broken.
That's the main culprit that was broken. I have a work order here, Your Honor, if you'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am. Sheriff Matt, if you'll retrieve that from Ms. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing this.
Yes, sir.
It says repair commercial washer operates without taking coins.
Exactly.
And then you've got a diode replacement.
Right.
And then a coin slot replacement mechanism.
Right. That's so that we can operate the machine.
So even the coin receptor was wrong, or at least not working properly.
Wasn't working properly, and that's the reason why we had to get it repaired.
Do you rent that, or do you own it like you do the washing machine?
We own that and had to put it on top of there so that we could make it a commercial washer.
So this washing machine and the coin receptor, they're kind of your babies.
Yes, they are, sir.
You own them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I did want to mention, Your Honor, we have never had anything like this happen in my laundromat in all the years that I've been there. My father or my grandfather, we've never had any incidents because we're very careful. We care about our customers. We do our best to make it a pleasant environment.
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
Honor, I feel for this little girl. I would want nothing like to happen to anybody's children, my children, anybody.
Do you hear that, Miss Roberts?
I hear it, but I don't believe it because you never came out when that happened.
I did come
when
out.
I was
She's a grandmother.
That's why I came out.
Ladies,
I screamed.
we're going to have order in this court.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor.
So, Ms. Roberts, I want to understand Gina's injuries from a medical perspective. I've consulted Dr. Eddie Richardson. So, Sheriff Matt, will you go get Dr. Richardson? Hello, doctor. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor?
Okay, Dr. Richardson, can you please explain Gina's injuries?
Yes, this sustained injuries of multiple abrasions and bruises, as well as a fracture to the left forearm, a compound radial fracture that she sustained probably from the tumblets inside of the wash machine.
For folks that are not doctors, what is a radial fracture?
A radial fracture, you have two bones in your wrist and your arm. The ulnar and the radius is the one that comes down particularly closest to your thumb. As it was tumbling, there's a possibility that the arm was outstretched and it came back, because that's a very fragile bone in that arm.
Did any of her wounds come from the glass breaking?
From the jagged edge, those were probably from the glass. Now, the abrasions that she had suffered on her shoulder were more than likely from the inside of the wash machine.
From getting tumbled around in there?
Tumbled around, yes.
What is it from emotional perspective for a little kid like this?
You bring up a very good point, Your Honor. That's probably one of the most substantial because she probably suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, a PTSD you've heard.
For a 3-year-old?
Yes. And you can imagine being closed in a closed-in space, which is going to be manifested as claustrophobia and anxiety as she was closed in this space, as well as the water coming in on her. Without counseling, she may suffer long-term anxieties and phobias and separation. That would affect her mind because at 3 to 5 years old is when kids are developing their personalities and their coping mechanisms.
It's an important time.
Exactly. So now you've interrupted that with a very traumatic experience.
Thank you, doctor. We appreciate you. You are now released.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Roberts, you've heard the description from the doctor's perspective. What's it been like with Gina after this incident?
I mean, it seems like an eternity because we used to do things together. I mean, she cannot play ball. She cannot play with her Barbies.
You should have been watching your kids, hon.
Yeah, you were not there. And
I was
and the
there.
washing
I keep
machine
telling
was
you, I
only
was
15
there. I was
feet
in the
away.
office. I came
yeah,
out.
you were not there, okay?
I came
and
out.
I was folding clothes.
When
you want to come and fold
So,
my
Ms.
clothes
Clark,
now?
in light of this little girl being injured,
Yes, sir.
you go right at it and say, well, you should have been watching your kids.
That's the whole thing, Your Honor.
But it seems like you're not thinking about Gina, though.
No, I am thinking about Gina. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I am sensitive to her, to the child's
But I'm not seeing
Your
from
Honor,
you
sir,
that you are showing some heart about this. A little girl was nearly killed in your laundromat.
Yes, sir.
But there's a moral kind of
I understand.
ethical
I
deal
understand,
here.
Your Honor,
I mean, y'all
I
could have.
understand, Your Honor. I understand, Your Honor.
Yeah, you don't care.
No, I do care.
You don't care.
I
So,
do
Ms.
care.
Roberts, as a parent, as a daddy of 3, my heart really goes out to you on this one.
Thank
As
you.
does mine, Your Honor.
You don't know what the future looks like. Ms. Clark, I'm glad you said that.
Yes, it does,
I am
Your
so
Honor.
glad you said
I know
that.
you don't believe me, but I do feel for this child.
You have a business, but you got a heart,
I was
too.
almost crying with her while she was holding her child. I was the second one there, other than the guy with the fire
You didn't
extinguisher.
care.
Ladies,
Yes, sir.
I think I've heard enough. I'm
Yes,
ready
you are.
to render my decision. In every personal injury case, the plaintiff, someone who is in your shoes, has to prove that there was an injury and that that injury was caused by the defendant's wrongdoing. That is, the wrong caused injury. Here, the wrong is shared. Clearly there was harm. Clearly the harm was caused by the wrong, but the wrong was shared. That is, you all should have secured this washing machine so the child or an adult could not get it open, especially if there was a risk of it turning on once you closed the door. You, on the other hand, you are a hard-working mom doing the most important job ever, but part of that job is to keep an eye on your children and to put them in the designated areas. So here I find that you are 60% responsible and you are 40% responsible for your daughter's injuries. In this case, you are seeking $8,000 for past medicals, $2,000 for future medicals, and $150,000 for the emotional distress that your daughter has gone through. In light of the fact that you are 40% responsible for your daughter's injuries, I hereby award you 60% of what you are seeking, which is $96,000. So I find in your favor and against Ms. Clark, that is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. This is the matter of Anson versus the Municipality of Dillon. Mr. Harrell, you're here representing the Municipality of Dillon, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Anson, you are suing the Municipality of Dillon for injuries you received when you were walking your dog in the park in this municipality. You're asking this court to award you $82,000 for past medicals, $20,000 for lost wages, $75,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $177,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Harrell, you represent the city of Dillon. You all believe that she's responsible for her own injuries. This is not your fault.
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Is my understanding that you were walking your dog. Tell me about that. Why this park?
Your Honor, I live in a beautiful neighborhood, and it's located with a fountain park and also a doggy park. I've lived there for about 8 years now. I was recently diagnosed with atherosclerosis, which is a hardening of the arteries.
Okay.
And so I need to exercise daily. I have to exercise due to my health and per my doctor. So I go to this park for about 30, 35 minutes every day to walk my dog, Ziggy.
Okay, what kind of dog is Ziggy?
He's a Shih Tzu. There he is right there.
Yeah, those
That's
are great,
my baby.
Great dogs. Mine was, I had a Shih Tzu too, and it was called Zulu. So they're great dogs. Okay, now Mr. Harrell, this park that brought us here today, tell me about this park.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to say that I do represent the city of Dillon, and I will say that we take great pride. We have at least a dozen parks right here within the city limits.
Okay.
And everyone moves here just to become part of great outdoors there. Now, the city main focus is family and the community, okay? Our fountains, a source of fun, if you say.
Now, on this day, there wasn't fun, so tell me about it.
Okay, Your Honor. The doggy park is located right near the fountain park. So around 6 a.m. in the morning, I looked outside and I noticed that it was these huge bubbles just overflowing, going everywhere. And that's not normal. So I decided to call 911 to let them know about the emergency because it looks like it was going to escalate to something more. So I laid back down once I made the phone call, and I woke back up around 8:30, because that's what time I usually take Ziggy for a walk.
Yes, ma'am.
And I looked outside and I noticed that it was gone. Looked like it was cleaned up, so that was good for me. It was
As
safe.
in no bubbles?
There was a few, but it was lower. It wasn't as high as it was.
Okay.
So it was safe enough for me to go for my walk. And Your Honor, I do have an exhibit to show you if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay.
Take your time. Come to the plasma screen and show me how this happened.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bear with me.
So tell me what we're looking at and explain this for me.
Your Honor, this is me, and this is Ziggy, and we're inside of the doggy park. And as you can see, Your Honor, this gate doesn't close all the way. The city was notified several times, and it does not close. So at this point, I'm gonna unleash Ziggy, and He gets distracted by these bubbles that are going everywhere, and he runs towards the bubbles. So as you can see, they're going everywhere. I run and bang, I hit my knee against this iron metal bench that I can no longer see, and the bubbles are escalating. I mean, Your Honor, it was like a giant snowman that was just coming up from nowhere. The bubbles start going everywhere. It was blinding me, and I hit my knee, and it gushes open, and there was blood everywhere.
Let me go back, because I want to see where this bench is.
Sure.
Is that the bench you hit?
Yes, that is the iron bench that hit my knee, and I'm there screaming for help, and that's when someone came and assisted me.
Okay, ma'am, you can return to the podium.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Harold, do you know about the first 911 call at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Tell me what the municipality's response is.
Well, Your Honor, the police department got a 911 phone call roughly about 6 a.m. that morning in reference to the bubbles. Now, our park employees, they don't arrive until 9 a.m. Now, my cleanup crew, unfortunately, but they were able to get to the scene where the bubbles were at 10. They cleaned up these bubbles. Now, I will say these bubbles stood every bit about, 8 feet high.
Miss Anson talked about the bubbles going down, or there was a lot less bubbles where she felt safe to let her dog go. How did they come back up? What makes that happen?
Just knowing the fountains, they cut on and off themselves. So from my knowledge, what I think happened was when the fountain cut off, the bubbles dissipated. And when it came back on, when she, I guess decided to walk her dog, that's when the bubbles started back, when the fountain kicked back on. From what I understand, the prankster actually did this. Now, we do have our records showing on surveillance camera that the prankster came in and put some type of detergent of some sort in the fountain, which caused the bubbles to spew out.
Which is why you should have came earlier to clean up the mess, and it wouldn't have been 8 feet by the time you came.
So how did you find out about the prankster?
Well, on the surveillance camera, we saw he or she came in early that morning, but unfortunately, we could not see their face because they had on a mask. So we're still working on getting the identity to try and get this case solved with that situation as well.
It was probably him.
You said these bubbles, this wall of bubbles was 8 feet high?
Yes, sir. And the part that really gets me about that, if she saw that the bubbles were 8 feet high and spewing over the place, common sense would have told her to enter from a different side. Common sense would have told you when you got a phone call at 6 o'clock to not come at 10 o'clock. It's just like you driving down the street, you see an accident, you're going to drive right into the accident or go around the doggone thing.
If I saw bubbles at my job, am I not supposed to go to work just because there's bubbles? I chased after my baby. This is my baby, Your Honor. If you are a parent, if this is your dog, you're going to chase after it to make sure that he's safe.
Mr. Harold, let's say a 3-year-old runs into those bubbles. What's she supposed to do? Well, folks these days, my 9-pound Morkie is kind of my 4th son in a lot of respect.
Now, by this being out of our control totally, if it was me, I would took more precaution entering something that I could not see.
This is the only way for me to enter into the park. And when I first, I don't know if he needs a hearing aid because I said it earlier. When I looked outside, there was no bubbles. It was safe enough for me to go. And he just stated that the fountain goes on and off. I guess it's on a timer.
Well, once this wall goes up and your dog goes into the wall, couldn't you have waited until the bubbles dissipated?
Thank you.
No, because I didn't know that it was on a timer till he just mentioned that. I'm trying to rescue my baby. I'm trying to follow his bark, and that's when I hit my knee on the bench.
If I must say, there has been no report of that gate having a malfunction at all.
That is
my thing is this. There are rules of the park. She knows the rules.
What rules are you talking about?
That you're supposed to keep the dog on a leash at all times.
The dog was on a leash.
My point is here, anytime the dogs are inside the dog park where the gate is, it's okay to let the dog off the leash if you
Which is what I did. The gate is not working.
But my point here is, Your Honor, if she knew the gate wasn't working, why the heck did she let the dog off the leash?
There's no sign, Your Honor.
Did you see a sign out there?
No, there's no sign that says
please,
this gate
woman,
does
there's
not
several
use.
signs
It's
around
not
the park.
Submitted a sign.
I don't see it.
Hold on.
She blowing a bunch of smoke.
I couldn't see anything with these bubbles in my face. How can I
Miss
possibly
Anson,
see it?
talk to me. He said that it's posted out there. Did you see this sign, Miss Anson?
I did not see that sign, Your
Ain't
Honor.
no probably. You know they out
Oh,
there.
well, you should have been out there earlier to get it.
Whatever.
You said that you walk your dog every day.
I walk my dog every day, and I never seen this sign, Your Honor. I don't know if he just put that out there when he came at 10 o'clock.
There are only
I've never
two
seen that sign.
possibilities. Either it wasn't there, or you weren't paying attention to it.
I pay attention to everything, Your Honor. That sign was not there.
Mr. Harold, where is this sign posted in the park?
Your Honor,
He don't know.
We have these signs posted on all the poles around the park. No matter how you enter, no matter where you walk.
So she should have seen this sign.
Absolutely. She's a longtime resident. She knows
Your Honor,
the
can
rules
you
of the
show
park.
me a photo of the sign near the dog park? Is there one that's together? No, it isn't, because you just made that up. There's no
You know what?
sign.
So, Ms. Anson, tell me, you said you slammed your knee into this iron park bench.
Yes.
And you used the word gushed.
As you can see, my knee was gushed open, blood dripping everywhere. I tried to warm it up and put some antibacterial spray on it as well as an ice pack. But as soon as I started trying to walk on my knee or trying to do anything on my leg, the pain starts to progress. So a couple days later, I went to the emergency room.
A couple days later, Your Honor?
A couple days later.
A
Your
couple
Honor,
days later?
Your Honor, 2 days
It couldn't
later.
have been
And
that
let me explain. 2 days later, I had to get stitches. And then after the stitches, there's the picture, Your Honor. After the stitches, Your Honor, I had to
That's
go
ugly.
back. It is. It's very disturbing. Because
That's what your knee looked like 2 days after.
Yes, Your Honor.
I see you've submitted $82,000
Worth
in
of
medical bills.
Yes, because I'm in physical therapy, I lost wages of over $20,000.
Yes, ma'am, I see
like
that.
I said, I'm a dental hygienist, so I'm on my feet all the time.
How'd you get $82,000 in medical bills?
I had a severe surgery, Your Honor, and it was infected. And I'm still going to the hospital right now because of this injury.
So, Mr. Harold, she bumps into your park bench. You represent the municipality.
Yes.
She gets hurt on your bench. Why wouldn't this be your fault?
Because, simple fact, the prankster did it. It was out of our control. We should not be to blame for someone else coming in, vandalizing our
You are
property out there.
responsible for making sure that the park is safe. It's your job. And if you can't do your job, then he needs to be replaced.
Well, to further understand your injuries, the court has consulted Dr. Samantha Brown Parks. Sheriff Matt, will you get the doctor for us?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. So irresponsible.
Really?
Hello, doctor.
Hi, Your Honor.
How are you?
Great.
Could you please describe the nature of the plaintiff's injuries?
Absolutely. So our plaintiff had an infrapatellar, or just below the knee, gash. It bled a lot. It looked really deep. She walked around for a couple days. But because it's a flexor joint, as she moved around to pick up her dog, to do her housework, it actually pulled the wound farther apart. That little tiny wound got infected. With dirty wounds, the emergency room can't sew it all the way up nice and pretty like a plastic surgeon. So we put in just a couple sutures to hold it together so that she can still move around and let it heal on its own and let the pus come out. Unfortunately for our plaintiff, it progressed. So the bacteria that was living in here actually tracked all the way down her leg in between the fascial planes. So that's the coating that's on the meat that you get from the grocery store, that white coating. It got inside that coating and turned into a giant exploding pus pocket.
Doc, you're going to turn me into a vegetarian here.
In this particular case, the whole reason she was trying to walk more is because of her newly diagnosed atherosclerosis.
So how does that affect her healing, Doc?
So as her normal artery becomes smaller before the wound, now just think about all of that pressure of the pus pocket inside that fascial plane squeezing even more.
So is it fair to say that to be walking around, she's really fortunate?
We're fortunate that the plaintiff didn't lose her leg.
Thank you, doctor. You are released. We appreciate you. I think I've heard what I need to hear, folks. I'm ready to render my decision. In every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Miss Anson, you've got to prove three things. You've got to prove that the Municipality of Dillon was wrong, that they did something wrong, and that their wrong caused your injuries. Here you've put up evidence that the Municipality of Dillon did not clean up the bubbles in time. You also say it was an emergency to follow your dog into those bubbles, and you should not be held responsible for what turned out to be a terrible, terrible injury. Mr. Harold, on behalf of the municipality, you believe that if she had simply kept Ziggy on the leash, and even after he was off the leash, if she had simply waited and let Ziggy come back to her, then this would have never happened.
That's correct. Yeah.
She and the prankster, you blame all of this on the prankster, really, right?
He was at home asleep.
Whenever there are multiple causes, potential causes for any outcome, every judge has to weigh the various causes and assign value to them, percentages. It can only be 100%. The prankster has to get something. That's called apportionment. The second legal principle is, what does a municipality do after they get reasonable notice of a problem?
No.
How much time is reasonable? 3, 4 hours? There's no judge in the world that's going to find that to be reasonable, regardless of what time your workers came to work that day. So I find you've proven that the municipality was wrong.
That's right.
But Ms. Anson, don't start celebrating now, because the third principle is called contributory negligence. In this case, 3 responsible forces came together. The prankster, the city not coming out in time, and you letting Ziggy off the leash and walking into this wall of bubbles, and you must be held responsible. I find the prankster is 10% responsible. I find you are 30% responsible, and I find the municipality is 60% responsible. I enter a verdict in favor of the plaintiff for what represents 60% of what you are asking for. You're asking for $177,000. I am awarding to you 60% of that, which is $106,200 in your favor against the municipality. That's my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.